going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 297. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him
E.
Sitting here on a Wednesday, beautiful Austin, Texas, sitting over there, clicking that little pen through the intro. How you feeling, my friend?
I didn't click it. I just grabbed it. Was it clicking?
You were clicking. Look. The thing we need to click this weekend is Austin FC.
That's right. Look, man, I hate this team that's coming into town this week. I've always hated them. And I'm looking at Austin, and it's like you have this really impressive, encouraging result versus one of the best teams in the league, an emotional game. Are you going to have a little bit of a hangover here versus a team that I think you can definitely get 3 points against at home? So I'm looking forward to getting into that. And I'm just ready for this week because I really dislike this team.
Yep. Yeah, it's always emotions always run high between these two teams, and I think between these two fan bases at some points here. So we will preview this Saturday's return to Q2 Stadium against LA Galaxy. Reminder, that is an early kickoff. I think I reminded you, E, before we went and hit record here today. That is a 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. So we'll preview that match. A couple listener questions here today. Last business day returns as the second team is back in action this weekend. Boy Factory and the nonsense. Before we get into the rest of episode 297, just want to remind you, as we always do, you can support the show financially for free just by downloading the audio versions of our episodes. Don't even got to listen. Just hit the auto download or toggle auto downloads on. That'll support us going forward. You won't have to think about it again. Go the extra mile, rate and review the show wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It does help us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, here on episode 297, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Joseph Paintsill, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. So we're going to start episode 297 with a correction. And this is thanks to Mike Cragnola, who, we were talking about in the recap of the Miami match on Sunday evening. The pass from Azuni to Jaden Nelson for that second goal, and how I watched that replay from different angles like 7 different times. You were watching with me in the airport, and I'm going to blame the Miami airport Wi-Fi, which is why we had to watch it so many times. A little bit grainy there while we're waiting for the flight. I said that pass did not hit Noah Allen. It absolutely did. And the first thing I see Monday morning is Mike posting a very clear angle of that thing going off Noah Allen's butt. So just wanted to correct the record there. That pass was deflected, but I don't care. We will take the assist.
I do not care either. Pot of integrity, though. It must be done. I've already filed the documents against the Miami Public Transport.
And I also wanted to shout out our buddy Jose, who brought this stat of the week, as I have crowned it here. Jose pointed out that Nico Duber-Sarski has now appeared 27 times for Austin FC. Now, Jose said that was the same number of appearances that he had for Instituto. From the two sites that I looked at, Jose, I saw him having fewer than that with Instituto. But all of that to say this, I wanted to give Jose credit for bringing that up because I think it just shines a light that I hadn't really thought about in a while, just how young Duber is. Like, obviously he is a prospect with what our front office thinks is a high ceiling. But I bring that up to highlight that there's been a lot of praise, and I think rightfully so, for Duber over his last 2 starts. I think he's been very, very solid. And I don't think we should be surprised if we see multiple leaps forward in terms of how he looks out there and his abilities, right? Because he's such a young player. And I know I've said at some point this spring that I think for this team to hit their ceiling, it might have been when we were going over the one of our listener questions that was like, what's the best 11 for this team when healthy? For me, for this team to hit their ceiling, I think Duber-Sarski needs to take over that spot from Ilie. Because Ilie's ceiling, right, and we know everything that he brings, but his ceiling is getting lower and lower by the day. It's small drops, right, but he's coming to the end of a storied career, whereas Duber as you can see from Jose's stat, right, is just getting started on what you think is going to be a very promising career for the talented young defensive mids. So just wanted to bring that up. Shout out Jose, and just highlight that about Duber-Sarski, man, because I think, again, it's that you can add that to, if you have excitement about Duber right now, I think you can add that to the mix.
For sure. That's a great call out there. And with Duber, that was someone that I was particularly concerned with when Pep went down. But since he's filled in, he's been quite solid. And, correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't we give him like the longest deal we've given anyone thus far? So
when he signed, for sure. I would have to pull up the depth chart, which, we have the technology here, but that's a good shout. I do remember that when we did sign him prior to last season, that was something that stood out. I want to say 29 or 2030.
I think it was 29, but it was clearly a signal that the front office and Roto in particular saw something in this kid that they thought was promising and had us excited initially. And then to see, how limited his experience has been thus far and the steps that he's taken, not only this season, but since he arrived here in Austin, is encouraging. And I do agree with you. I think, we said this before, that Duber should just kind of be attached at the hip to Ilya, soaking up anything that he can from him, because we do know physically, athletically, Ilya, like you said, coming to the end of a great career here, in Duber in the complete opposite position and on the way up.
Yeah, and you can look at the year-by-year depth chart here with the cap hits. So, yeah, Duber, when he was signed, he was the first player with a 29-30 option. And now we have a handful of guys. Of course, Facu Torres has actually exceeded that mark in terms of the length of his contract. His contract, that option, right, goes into 2030. 31. But those other players that have now joined Duber with contracts or options that extend into that season: Joseph Rosales, Owen Wolf, Irvin Torres, and Facu Torres. So double Torres action there potentially still in 2030. But yeah, some good Duber talk. And man, I hope he keeps up this form, man, because again, if he can continue to play at this level or even exceed what he's been doing already, right, you would think his confidence is growing. Until we can get Danny back and Owen hopefully back at some point here into the mix. And just going forward in the season, right? I stand by the idea that we need Duber-Sarski to be a starting level player to really reach, top 4 or 5 in the West.
I agree with that.
So we do have a couple listener questions here, E. Scott H. asked, have we had a VAR or a play that should have been VAR'd go our way at all this year? And I know that's how it feels. Mm-hmm. The one that comes off just right to mind was the Charlotte goal that was called back for the handball. I thought rightfully so. I know there was some Charlotte fans that disagreed with that. But that doesn't change the fact that we have the Biru red card from that same game. Was it Liel Abada, the elbow to Duber in that game? That's what I'm literally not in the notes, just thinking about here off top. The LAFC match, the non-red to Segura, coming a week after, right? The Charlotte red, or 2 weeks after, rather. We had the RSL debacle in between. The goal called back later because Ilya was offside, and right, I don't feel hard done by that. He was offside, just unfortunate. But then the non-penalty last week against Inter Miami, man, which the hosts on MLS 360, I don't know if you saw the reels going around out there. All of the people on the panel were in the moment, that is a pen. Even the MLS, right, the little YouTube video they put out after a match day. Who would have thought they could actually say, yeah, Austin got jobbed here. And we were kind of discussing this a little bit before we went live. It's funny, man. I still feel way more upset about the Charlotte red and the non-red in the LAFC match than I do about this penalty that was not given to us in the Miami game, just because of the game state. Right, 30 seconds in, if we score a goal there, that does not guarantee that we get the Biru goal after that. And Miami's a team that can score multiple goals at the drop of a hat. So I still have much more animosity towards those previous calls, but the penalty that we were not awarded this past week just, again, goes on the stack. And I'm sure some listeners could come up with other plays that were, on the fringe of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Biru and the Segura non-call there were the most impactful in terms of the games that they took place in, but the non-PK call on Ramirez was the most egregious, in my opinion. Like some more objectivity with the bang bang kind of play that were the Biru red and the Segura non-red. But this Ramirez play is just blatantly obvious. And like you talked about, you have the people there, commentators, talking about this being so clear and obvious. I mean, I think the dude who like kind of rounded up that conversation at the end was just like, that's a penalty. I don't even know what to say about it. Like, I don't even get into it. Like, it's clearly a penalty. So, kind of with the injuries that have stacked up with this team, I'm not reading in between. Like, I'm not reading tea leaves here, like with these, VAR calls or non-calls. It's just some random nature that we've had a little bit of bad luck with both of these things this season.
So then kind of following up on that, Tex Rex asked, with what appears to be blatantly obvious decision-making by VAR against Austin FC this year, not even to mention previous years, do you agree with me that there's an actual regional bias factor in the VAR decision-making process against Austin this year with the VAR being located in Arlington? Now,
I do not know. I don't. That feels like kind of low-hanging fruit for the fact that we've had some calls that we don't think are favorable. Obviously, all of us in this fan base are probably a little biased towards Austin getting the right whistle here. I just don't think that they're employing people who are like from Arlington that came up as big, FC Dallas fans, and they're now like getting their get back on a team that didn't even exist.
And I don't think Dallas thinks about us that much because they beat us more often than not. If we're getting into the Dallas like fandom side of it, but like I'm with you, dude. Like I don't buy into Austin being targeted here. I just think they're bad at their jobs.
Yeah. That's like it's Occam's razor. They're not great.
Yeah, and the location of the VAR being in Arlington is convenient for us. If it was Secaucus, New Jersey, then like we wouldn't think about it twice. But I wouldn't argue with you if you suggested that like the Coastal Elite teams get a favorable whistle or a favorable look in the VAR room, but not Austin specific. They keep calling shit like this, though. Maybe I'll get there with you.
Hey, look, that's not soon enough for me yet. But we keep going in this path, man. Good Lord.
Well, let's jump into previewing Saturday's match against LA Galaxy. I am on the preview here at the northendpodcast.com for this one, E. So I will remind the listeners, or tell you for the first time if you're just getting into Austin FC and MLS this season, LA Galaxy is one of the 10 original MLS teams. And with that, they are the most successful franchise in terms of bringing home trophies. The Galaxy have a record 6 MLS Cup titles, the first of those being in 2002. And of course, the most recent one being 2024 behind the attacking front, right, of Ricky Pooch, Dejan Joveljic, Gabriel Peck, Joseph Paintso, right? You could keep listing guys off from that absolutely loaded team. They've got 6 MLS Cup titles and 10 appearances in the MLS Cup final. They also have 4 Supporter Shield titles, but those came in 98, 02, 2010, and 2011. 2 Open Cup titles, 01 and 05, and a CONCACAF Champions League title from the year 2000. So absent the MLS Cup title in 2024, which I'm not trying to just ignore and throw in the trash, but it had been a decade since they had pulled home or won a trophy rather in that club's history, right? It was a lot of success, like David Beckham, right? Who started the DP rule here. Like David Beckham's arrival in MLS was, I imagine, one of the 5 most important points in this league's history. And other names, like I mentioned, Landon Donovan, right, played the majority of his career with the Galaxy and won a lot of those trophies with the team. But Robbie Keane, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, say what you want about the guy off the field, on the field, he's one of the players that, like, if he was playing for his club, his country, like when I was more of a soccer casual than I am now, I was trying to watch, man. I loved watching Zlatan play.
Love me some Zlatan, and I don't know how you couldn't like him off the field. I mean, he's got some questionable LeBron comments, but He seems like a fun guy for sure.
Oh man. Well, and to add to that list of names, like Marco Royce is on this team right now, and obviously on the backside of his career as well. So I mentioned won the MLS Cup in 2024. And then, at least on a points per game basis last season in 2025, the worst season in club history. And it was only for the big second half that they had, man, where like over the second half of the season, they were on a 51-point pace. That's the only way they avoided the wooden spoon last season. And part of the reason why I think we ranked them in the top 6 in our preseason predictions is they looked like a playoff team over the last half of the season last year. But dude, through last season, first of all, right, set the MLS record for a winless streak to begin a season. They played 16 league matches without a win. That was like when they finally beat RSL at home, it was May 31st. The season last year began on February 23rd. And like in the middle of that, dude, Coach Greg Vanney got a contract extension.
Yeah.
Now, there were a lot of circumstances to where at the time, and like even still now, man, I think giving him an extension at that point was fine because he just coached them to a title. And, Ricky Pooch out with an ACL injury. That is by far their best player. And I still think when healthy, a top 3, maybe top 5 player now with how this league has grown. But like he's one of my favorite players. I hate when he's playing against us. But he was out last year. They had gone all in from a salary cap perspective to where there were they had to trade Dejan Joveljic, who is just a Terminator up top, like consistently punished us and other teams. And you think about the injuries that they've had, not just to Ricky Pooch, but on their back line. And last year, Joseph Painsil in and out of the lineup, right? So at the end of the day, last season, finished 14th in the West on 30 points. They did score 9 more goals than Austin did, 46, but conceded 66. And like you saw some of the players go out this summer. Diego Fagundes was a cap casualty because he was still on that overinflated contract and mostly a rotational starter. I want to say played at least half of the games off the bench for this team last season, even with Ricky Pooch sidelined. They got rid of Zonka, which was a disappointment to somebody who's going to play 2 games against the Galaxy. He may have been like the biggest target on a back line in the league last year. Like, dude, I'm watching back the highlights of the 2 games last year and just like Azuni is cooking this guy.
Yeah.
And that says something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the thing with their team last season, right? It was like that defensive unit was just absolutely pitiful. And like, I think we talked about it when we were previewing them last year and we were discussing the in and out kind of transfer moves that they had and how we would have gladly traded a championship and then need to, disband this entire unit the next season. If it meant bringing home that cup, which they obviously accomplished. And being without Ricky, man, is just, they've been missing their best player for over a year now. Yeah. And like you said, it's not particularly close. They have some other guys, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, who are super talented, but none of them pull the strings that Ricky does. None of them can set players up like Ricky does and then still have the scoring ability, touch, the outside shot, the one-on-one capabilities that Ricky has. So like filling that void, obviously we knew they weren't going to be able to do a 1-for-1 kind of swap situation with anyone that they would have been able to find for Ricky. They've just had a bunch of questions there. And now you look at the team this season and I still think they're talented offensively. I think on the defensive side of the ball, they're not that good.
Yeah, and like I think we got to talk about who's in and who's out. The context around their current injury report, I think, is playing into that feeling. Yeah. 2 other guys they lost, Miguel Berry. Every time he was playing for them against us, I felt good about it. So like, I don't think they're probably too upset about his exit. But then number 4 on this listy, and that didn't come until after the season had started. Christian Ramirez was bought out by this team. And of course, this will be a Christian Ramirez revenge spot here at Q2 on Saturday. But I thought, dude, that Will Kuntz, the GM, did, and I think pretty highly of him because he came in, built that championship team, and like obviously, like you said, they're feeling the effects of that right now. But the mission was accomplished, man. That trophy will stay in the case for eternity, and like to revamp this roster by trading for Jakob Glesnes, right? Glesnes, center back, spent I believe the majority, or if not all, of his MLS career with Philadelphia Union, former Defensive Player of the Year. 2-time MLS best 11. Like that was the marquee signing this year to shore up that defense. And I thought Glesnes is hurt right now. Through the first 2 matches, they look pretty good. Gave up 1 goal to NYCFC at home. I think you and I both think NYCFC is a above average team in this league right now. And then they beat the shit out of Charlotte 3-0, all 3 goals, I want to say, in the first 20 minutes and held on for the clean sheet. And then it's gone downhill since he was sidelined. They also brought in Justin Hack, right? Youngster. He's like 23 or 24, I think. But from NYCFC, came over in free agency, can play center back, can play defensive mid. And just at the moment, playing center back, solely playing center back because of the injury situation. They also traded St. Louis City for Joao Klaus after Ricky Puig re-injured his ACL. Which was, man, it's just, that's bad for the league, obviously bad for the Galaxy. But for our chances in this game, a good thing, right? That Ricky is not out there playing, but Joao Klaus on an expiring contract. So this is just kind of a rental designated player. And I thought Will Kuntz did well with this deal, man, because Joao Klaus right now, 5 goals, leading the team by far in scoring. And he's still just such a huge threat up top.
We've been able to catch some of these Galaxy games when they're on a little later, we get back or whatever. And they're also one of the teams, as I mentioned, that I, really hate. So I do want to catch their highlights and stuff from their games, but he's been reinvigorated a little bit. And we've known for a long time that a guy like that with the size, the lack of like just straight line kind of speed, he isn't going to lose those aspects and components of his game with positioning, a feel for how the ball is progressing, to be in the right spot at the right time. And he's good with either foot and he's solid in the air. So he's been a nice and welcome sight for them to start this season. As you mentioned, the 5 goals right now, pacing them. I think he was in the boot lead for a little, maybe a week or 2 or something, but he's still in that conversation.
He's up there. Yeah. With 5 goals through 6 games. Anyways, last addition to talk about here that was of note, Eric Tommy, who was a target we discussed in the offseason, right? And he's been mostly coming off the bench for them to start this season. Again, came over from Sporting KC in free agency. So we mentioned the draw against NYCFC at home to begin the season, then the victory at home against Charlotte. 4-1 loss to Colorado on the road. That was exacerbated, that scoreline, by a Gabriel Peck red card in the second half of that one. Colorado scored twice after the sending off. So then you're without Gabriel Peck the next week, and Joseph Paintsil is hurt, and Jakob Glesnes is hurt, and you lose 2-1 at home to Sporting KC. Now that's a team like Sporting KC. Like, are those injuries an excuse to lose to a team like that at home? I'm sure LA Galaxy fans don't think so, but like, you're already without Ricky, and then you're missing those 3. Like, you're pretty vulnerable then. And then they lost 2-1 at home to Minnesota this past week. And again, you're still without Paintsil. You're still without Glesnes. And again, that late loss against Minnesota, like, even through the injuries and the suspensions, from my subterfuge work here early in the week, the fans are upset.
Oh, they always are.
Quite right, for sure. But like, questioning lineup decisions, specifically from this last game. I'm sitting here on the outside looking in, and like, man, the coaches have to try something, especially since this team is still alive in CONCACAF. They play Toluca tonight on Wednesday in the first leg of their quarterfinal matchup, and this is on the road, dude. This game is 1,300 miles from LA, and they're playing this at 8,000 feet elevation, which is like RSL, dude. And to have this kickoff at 10 p.m. Central Time tonight, and then our kickoff Saturday 1:30. We are at the schedule advantage coming into this one.
Absolutely. And you look at where these teams are at in the table, right? We're one spot ahead of them. We talk about the injuries that both teams have dealt with, and like, yes, to your point, like losing to SKC at home, that sucks. And, the fans are frustrated about that. And I totally get that. But again, with the injuries that have racked up for this team, particularly Glesnes, man, like that back unit had started to find some stability with a guy who's one of the best defenders in the league. And now they've lost not only their, captain of that back line, that voice of that back line, and the talent hole there. And we're talking about Garces before we jump on here and sliding him back into, more of a converted center back role, having him in that position. They haven't been able to find the answer for that. So these two teams, Austin and LA, a bit similar right now to start their season, obviously missing some of their best players. And it's just hard to make up for that with the constraints of this league in regard to your roster.
Well, like speaking about that roster, pulling up the Galaxy's roster profile for the YouTube viewers, you can see a 4-3 build, right? Because you've got Ricky on that season-ending injury list. In terms of the injuries, and we got because of that CONCACAF match tonight, we got Vanny Presser yesterday. Joseph Painsil is targeting their second leg against Toluca for a return, but they did not rule out limited minutes off the bench this weekend, right? Which, of course, just our luck. Painsil could be coming back against us, but either if he's in a reserve role, that's not an excuse to do anything but win this game, I think. Glesnes will remain out, and then Matheus Nascimento, right, one of those forwards. He almost had a really saucy back heel against us up there last year in the first half. Yeah, he's also out here, so that helps us. Yeah, helps us up top, at least potentially in relief of Joao Klaus. But dude, we could especially, I think we need to be rooting for a good Galaxy performance on the road here tonight, because if they have a chance coming back home Wednesday, I think we could see significant rotation on Saturday. They did call up short-term loan agreements, 2 of their second teamers for tonight's match. So again, I'm going to have my eyes glued to their lineup card before that match kicks off to get a better feel of what we could potentially see on Saturday. Go ahead. I mean,
yeah, you got these 4 games coming up in 10 days here for this team. We already know how beat up they are. Like, it's going to be interesting how Vanny approaches this. Obviously, with the Painsil kind of questionable, we were talking before, like, oh yeah, of course he's about to be back versus us. But man, I would be shocked to see him in anything other than some sort of reserve role. But
yeah,
we knew the grind was about to hit here, but it has hit even more so for this Galaxy team with the CONCACAF competitions that they're in right now, and that travel and everything. Man, I absolutely love to see it, because I'm down to kick this team when they're down.
Yeah,
I'm for it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I'm with you, dude. Well, so they got multiple, independent fan run shows talking about Greg Vanny is going to get fired. It is a matter of time. I saw people saying, if they take a huge loss tonight, there were some guys speculating he might not be on that plane to Austin later this week. I think that the front office in LA probably errs on the side, kind of like when you do in situations like that, where it's like, man, all things considered, like maybe it's not the time because we're having to call up 2 guys for a CC, from the second team for a CCC match. But it's not good vibes on the Galaxy side of things, man. And like, it has to continue this Saturday. The last road win for this club in MLS was game 2 of the first round in 2024. They did not win on the road at all this year, and they have not to start this year. 19 straight league road matches without a win. This cannot be the end of that streak.
Absolutely cannot be the end of that streak, particularly with how they're coming in this beat up and everything. Because we were talking about, when was the last time we got to celebrate a win outside of the before our first one this year?
Yeah, I mean, we've had one since LAFC at home, the penultimate match of last regular season.
That's right. Wow.
Yeah, so I think that was October 13th or something. So we've had one win since then. But again, I mean, shit, dude, I just don't feel like that, because I know it wasn't a win, but I felt so good after the Miami draw. And watching what LAFC has fucking done since we played them, dude.
Oh my God.
Might as well have been as good of a win as a win. And like,
it might be better.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, they are crushed. I mean, 6-0 over Orlando, 5 goals in the first half. And I know Orlando's a mess right now, but like,
still,
you to put up a touchdown at the end of the match, like you know, you're firing on all cylinders. And then what, 3-0 over Cruz Azul last night?
Insane. I mean, I caught the highlights of that game, extended highlights, which was really nice to get to see more of the gameplay, and Cruz Azul really dominating the first half. Not to get too far off target here, but
we're trying to give our guys praise.
Yeah, just see the prowess of Buanga and Martinez and what they can do. And then it's like, oh, there's just Son running free, like on the back line, like that LAFC team. And that's playing into the distraught kind of feeling of this Galaxy fan base as they're watching LAFC fucking Son run this season and feeling some type of way about it. And this cannot, like, if you want to make that Miami game where you got the point last week, solidify it and stamp it as, okay, that's great, then you got to go win this one, because we talked about, you know, how many points you could be walking away from with these next 3 matchups, and there was a non-zero chance that you were going to walk away with nothing to show. You got 2 in the bank right now. This is house money to play with. You got to come out and beat this banged up team that is going to be coming off a midweek match in a different country. Like, it has to happen. So, I mean, like Brian asked us when we were chatting after, you know, getting back from the Miami game and everything, if we were pulling the lever on this game. And I'm not sure if I'm there yet. Maybe I'll get there, you know, by the end of the preview. But 3 points here goes a really fucking long way for the vibes, and it goes a really long way in the table.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't pull the lever because it's just it's not a must win right now. But I just think a loss would be devastating to the momentum you have built up, because you go back before the LAFC match and you brought up the potential for 0 points from the next 3 games. And I agreed. And if you would have told us then that you would get potentially 5 points from this stretch, we would have signed up as fast as we possibly could.
Absolutely. A result each game. Absolutely.
Like, and in the context of the way the first 2 went. And how good those teams are and are playing right now. You know, Miami's not maybe, you know, at their peak right now, but
still,
we saw the firepower in person, dude. I was thinking earlier, like walking up the stairs earlier this week, just like, shit, dude. Not like, I just saw a match, Austin FC match, where Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez scored.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
It's
awesome.
Insane. It's fucking awesome. And now you got to stamp that draw with a victory here.
So getting completely into the Austin side of things now, all-time head-to-head between these 2 clubs. You can bring it back to 500 with a dub here. 4 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses for Austin FC all-time against the Galaxy. It's kind of been a tale of 2 halves, so to speak. It's just, you know, that's a phrase I like to use because it was the beginning of this rivalry that was dominated by the Galaxy, but it's been Austin winning 3 of the last 4 meetings. The July 16th win at the Galaxy last season was the first road result for Austin FC in this matchup. And of course, right, that was completing the sweep because we had a 1-0 win at home early last season. Some of those post-game antics, right? You had Buka comes in off the bench, wins a penalty almost immediately. We were going crazy. Brandon Vasquez kind of passes it to John McCarthy. But then the get back, Jean Kolmanich crosses it in, little deflection. BV is there to tap it home. 1-0 win. You get the bullshit. You talk about bullshit Reds. No VAR needed for this one. Brendan Hindsight gets a card for dissent and says like one other thing and gets the second one shown to him immediately. And like you put that side by side with what Zaha was doing a couple weeks ago, dude. Just insane that he got tossed in that one. Because again, like we were saying at the time, if Hindsight said something to deserve that, he's also getting fined, and he was not fined for that.
And he just doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to say magic words.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one where you're just absolutely cooked.
For sure. And then after the final whistle, Kolmanich and Paintsil going at it, and a couple coming togethers. You know, Greg Vanny saying something to Guilherme Biru laughing in his face. Like you got to think about that part of this rivalry as well. That's kind of what took it to the next level for a head-to-head matchup that was already a little bit contentious. Just the Austin LA, the Diego Fagundes once he was traded, and then of course the Biru foul that, you know, was for whatever reason heard around the world, even though he didn't touch the guy. So look, man, swept this team last year, and it's got to keep going.
And you dominated this team last year. And as we talked about, you did face them multiple times earlier in the season when they weren't really hitting it. But you dominated this matchup last year, and they still had guys on that offensive unit, who were super talented. And like I don't think we should have conceded to them. That's right, yeah, because they got that one bullshit PK
Dessler
on Dessler with the Paintsel kind of wrap up. So that needs to continue here, man. And I'm focused on that back line for the Galaxy and the way that we looked last week versus Miami. I don't think the same type of strategy going forward is going to benefit you. And what I mean by that is we saw a lot of long balls over the top, Austin utilizing speed that isn't necessarily our strong suit versus a team that is very lacking in that department. This LA Galaxy back line, for better or worse, does have some athletic players on that back line. And I think it'll be hard to hit some balls over the top that we saw were available to you versus Miami. But what those dudes have in speed, I think they are lacking in awareness. I think they are lacking in discipline. I'm talking to you about Garces right before we jump on here, and I'm like, this kid just kind of like baffles me a little bit. You see that he's raw, you see the athletic talent, and then every now and then he'll have a couple plays where it's like, oh wow, like that's the making of a really, really solid defender in this league. And then they'll just be a disaster on his end. I'm brought back to the Minnesota matchup last week where he's matched up versus Chanclay. Pretty lazy effort, in my opinion, to try to get this ball out of a super dangerous zone, and Chanclay just puts it into the middle of the pitch, and there's Yeboah, and you lose that game. So that's where I'm looking at for Austin to be attacking. But it's going to have to be a different strategy. If you're patient with this team, the Galaxy that is, I think you can break them down and find some runs that wouldn't have been available to you in other matchups, just given the fact that they're without Glesnes and they're kind of glue guy in that back unit to handle what Austin has moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a different sort of plan of attack here, right? Because I would be shocked if LA is going to come out with the same type of high line that Miami did at home opening new stadium last week. Of course, tomorrow we should get immediate availability from Coach Estevez. Need injury updates on Facu Torres and Owen Wolf. And I'm just
and
hopeful.
Dessler.
Yeah, shit. Yeah. So, and I was actually talking about this, and we'll, of course, preview this match on Sunday's recap episode because here comes the double game weeks. But I would not be surprised and almost maybe favor Dessler minutes off the bench here and then start him with a rotated back line against Louisville. So, maybe you get Bell-Djordjevic pairing, but you've got Dessler out there with him. But yeah, I mean, again, Dessler is healthy. He was active on the bench last week, dude. And yeah, no, I know, but I expect nothing less than him to at least be on the bench here. And if he gets the start, then let's go, dude. I've been waiting for that. I just don't think it's going to happen.
If he's healthy, then why isn't someone asking Nico why he's not playing? Why?
I assume it's because Johnny's been playing well.
Okay, for sure. Okay. I mean, you just never know with this guy.
I know.
Particularly this season. So, I wanted, it's partial joke to add him in there, but
but we are not the only ones puzzled that he didn't appear last week.
And so, what do you feel about Facu? How do you feel about his prospects?
I mean, I don't know, man. The injury report is just it's a beating this year for me because I always lean on this you get this guy back in for some limited minutes here and start the return to play progression. It's just everything gets pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
But Facu played the end of that half, and coach did not seem overly concerned in the post-game presser.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably available off the bench, but I'm not going to sit here and make the injury calls like we did for fun last week because I just don't know. And I think I am strongly leaning towards Owen Wolf not being available again, unless Nico comes out tomorrow and says, he's actually got a chance this week, something that we haven't heard, right? Mm-hmm. And you need that full week of practice to be active on game day. So we haven't gotten any crumbs of him, of Owen, playing contact drills, even though we know he's done some of that. I think we're going to be missing him again.
So Jaden start, and then you have potentially Bobby T in rotation as well.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I like
but
the
again,
injury game, man. I'm good at it. That's why you want to get rid of it.
Well, then I'll flip it around on you. What do you think?
I think he's available, doesn't start.
Okay.
And I think that is with the context of how this schedule is going to look moving forward. Like you said, double game week coming up here as well.
Yeah.
And then with obviously the other injuries baked into this equation. But if I don't see Dessler get some time in this game, I'm making a phone call to someone.
Okay.
I don't know who. You might have to call the Danish and be like, yo, what's up with your boy? But someone would need to tell me what's going on with this guy. And to your point, Johnny has been playing really well. And it's not like we have this huge need where it's like we got to get him back in there and thrust him in there. But like 12 minutes on the season, man. We thought this dude was just sitting out, preseason matchups versus USL teams.
Yeah, I know.
So I think, with how Jaden looked versus Miami, with the, Robbie getting that bench availability, no time, I think those guys are going to be good, ready to go. I think you'd be a little more conservative with Facu, and bringing him on in the 60th minute, depending on game state, sounds nice to me. You know what I mean? That they're gonna have some subs too that they're gonna run through that I think will be, guys we got to keep an eye on depending on how they rotate after this Toluca matchup. But having someone to come on and match that level of talent that Facu can do, I think could be advantageous. And maybe that's just looking at the glass half full. But I don't anticipate a start for him. And I just do think that that's being more conservative.
So, friend of the pod, Phoenix, joined the Patreon last week. He had a question asking about what do we think, when we're fully healthy, what is the best 11? And we had that exact question a few weeks back, so I didn't go and kind of dig up whatever lineup graphics we concocted for that one. But the second part of his question was, do you think a back four or a back five is best for this team when healthy? And I think for me, it's easier to it's easier to get our best 11 players how I view it. See, I think with a 5, dude, because I think how else are you going to get Biru and Rosales out there if we're fully healthy? And again, I think I would have to go back and look because we did this like 3-4 weeks ago, and my thoughts on some of these guys have changed. But
what? So you're putting Biru at left center back in the 3 center back, and then Rosales. I don't like that. If we're getting our best 11 players on the field, I think that's how you do it. But that's not Nico prefers the back 4. Looking at what he's done. I just don't like it because I think it, for lack of a better term, kind of neuters what Biru brings to the game. We've seen him in that left center back position look really fucking lost at times.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? I'm fine with Rosales playing left wing after seeing what he was doing last week and like moving up in that kind of role.
But if you're fully healthy, that's not the way to go. We got too many other guys.
All right, so this is what you need to do. You clone Biru 10 times, right? That's interesting. I think it's the 4 for me. And to your point, I think you saying the talent level would potentially be higher with the 5. Mm-hmm. But I think
I'm getting Ilie out.
Okay. I think if you're
I hate on this dude so much. Sorry to interrupt you. I hate on Ilie so much.
I don't think you do.
And I love the guy. I'm just I feel like I'm being realistic about where he's at and like the rest of our roster.
You are. That's not hating.
Okay.
We talk about
it's all like every other week. I'm like, get him out.
Yeah, come on, old man. The intangibles, everything that he brings, and he's kind of our voice leader guy. I think both of us really appreciate that.
Yes.
About him. But I just think positionally, if you're moving guys around a little bit, it's a good question. I lean 4 back, and I think that plays into how Nico wants to play and where we would have guys lining up. But I see getting Facu on there, getting Jaden on there, then sliding Rosales back to accommodate both of those guys makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, for the record, when we did that exercise previously, I had Biru on the bench and Rosales at left back.
Yeah.
So again, but these are good problems to have.
For sure. So, once we get healthy, we don't have those problems now. We got other problems that are not good problems.
We appreciate Phoenix for his first listener question of his tenure here in the North End. And I think outside of Austin needing a result, my big storyline for this game is Christian Ramirez revenge. I think he scores.
I like it. I like the call. You kind of talked me into a little bit. And, that timeline with him making the dude go through training camp, making him feel like he's part of the team.
He played for him.
Playing him the first game. And then
he played CONCACAF this year.
The next day you're like, you're out of here. I could see anyone taking that some type of way. But a dude who's an MLS vet obviously had a storied career in this league. I understand if he feels a certain level of disrespect. And once again, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, and this is the one thing I forgot to say. If I'm going to ding Will Kuntz for something on this roster build, and I know they have very different salaries, but Brady fucking Scott is on your senior roster along with JT Marcinkowski, and you've got Novak Mikovic on the supplemental. They got 3 keepers. I'm out on that. So not ideal there. Kuntz. All righty. Unless you have anything else to add here, how much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday? And damn, it feels good to ask that question again.
Hey, indeed. I like 2-1 here. I respect the offensive firepower this team has, and I talked about the defensive unit plenty. And again, they look like a team that's really pressing right now, trying to find a way. You talked about, the fan base being upset. In my subterfuge kind of work, I saw them shitting on all kinds of different players, had plenty of negative things to say about Cerrillo. We're really frustrated with Gabriel Peck and the fact that he is constantly looking to shoot the balls, looking at a couple stats for them and everything. They lead the league in shots on target per game. And just from the games and highlights I've watched, that's a lot of shots on target coming off of Gabriel Peck's foot from outside the box that are just catches for the keeper. So like a little more context provided where like these aren't super threatening because a lot of players seem frustrated with Peck as well, in my opinion. So I'm 2-1 here, Austin, and I think that's fair.
As a best ball manager of Gabriel Peck in multiple leagues, I'm also frustrated with him, but I will continue that frustration gladly through this weekend. I was also dancing around a 2-1, but because I hate to copy you, I'm going to make it even better. Give me 2-0, Austin FC. We'll keep the clean sheet at home, and don't care how you get it done, boys. We just need 3 points.
Come on down to Palmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day.
Last business day on episode 297 of the North End podcast, and it is Copita Tejas week. Ooh. Houston Dynados coming to town. All-time head-to-head between these two teams. 5 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses for Austin. Last season was an even split, 1-1-1. First game on the road with Stephen Cleveland in net, that 2-1 loss. Then Houston took the extra point home in the shootout from Parma. That was their first ever result in Austin, but Houston has still never won at Palmer Field as Austin FC 2 with the 2-0 victory in the final meeting last year. Houston 2 finished 11th in the West on 37 points, so they were 4 back of Austin last season, 40 goals for and 47 against. But if we flip over to the table, Houston Dynados, the only team in the West still perfect, 4 wins, no draws, no losses. They are in second in the West, though, because St. Louis has played an extra game, and they got that draw on the extra point, so they're sitting on 14 through their 5 matches. But Houston, 13 goals for, 0 against. And look, man, I think they've had a pretty easy schedule. I know it's very early in the season here, but they're 4 wins. They beat last place Colorado, 12th place Tacoma, 10th place Portland, and then they did beat Copita Tejas rival North Texas SC. They are sitting in 6th. And all 4 of their matches have been at home, so this is the first road match of the year for Dynados. They've also used first-team guys in rehab assignments this season, like Felipe Andrade, Nick Marcanic, right? Is the twin Marcanic brother there. He has also played. I think he played last week, so maybe a little bit of a demotion after the red card at the first team level for kicking Pantemis in the face. They also got, I know it's brutal. Especially because Houston then won shorthanded. They also got a game at the second team level from Blake Gillingham, who started multiple. He was in camp with Austin in 2025, signed with Houston, and then after the injuries cut Steve Clark, I think, ACL for Andrew Tarbell, all of a sudden Blake Gillingham was in net for their first team. So we may see him with the second team this week. Other guys to watch out for here on Sunday night. Again, this is 7:30 kickoff at the pitch. Number 22, Matthew Arana, is a homegrown first-team option. He's got a goal and an assist in his 3 appearances with the second team. Number 18, Diego Gonzalez, is still there, right? 23-year-old midfielder. He was wearing the armband last week, but that was just his first start, so might be injury recovery there. I would expect to see a mainstay like Gonzalez get the start here. Some other first-team homegrowns who haven't played much. Number 27, Reese Miller. Number 35, Logan Erb. They were both available off the bench last game against North Texas, and Miller made his next pro debut for the season in that one. But I think the name that we, unfortunately need to watch closely this weekend is number 20, Gavin Wolf, who has started all 4 games at center back. And hey, man, no goals allowed. And Gavin Wolf himself has a goal and an assist. So look, man, again, one that got away when we let go of Josh and traded him to his rights to Houston. But I don't know, man. The kid is coming into his own, I think, and we're going to get an up-close look at the progression of Gavin Wolf here on Sunday night.
Yeah, he'd be the leading scorer in best ball right now, given the new scoring system. Right? You get all those clean sheet bonuses. You got the goal and an assist. And you look at the progression of Owen, and obviously these things are not completely linear, but, Gavin as well on the right path here. And we knew what type of prospect he was when he was here and then unfortunately leaving. But, you talked about having all 4 games at home, that they haven't played a team who's higher than 6th right now in the table. And yes, is that advantageous? For sure. Have you absolutely handled your fucking business? 100%. So both things can be true here. This matchup has always been a fun one at the next pro level, a much more spicy, physical, contentious game than you're going to see pretty much with anyone else we play at the next pro level. So I'm all for it. This is a nice matchup. Austin coming in with some positive momentum on the heels of 2 victories here. So it should be a fun game.
On the Austin side, watching for Damien to get the start here, man, because you think about Open Cup on Tuesday. Last season to prepare for the Open Cup, Stephen Cleveland also started against Dinah Dose. So hopefully a better result than Stephen Cleveland kind of captained us to that. I don't know if he had the armband or not in that one, but, I was on his ass after that loss. Man, another one of our new friends here in the Patreon, Kegel, is asking us, if Damien starts for Austin versus Louisville, would that break Stuver's consecutive streak, or does that only count for MLS play? And I believe it is the latter. Stuver's streak is just MLS play, which is good because, you think about it, I guess just while we're talking about this situation here, Cleveland started the Open Cup last year, and we've still got the Brad streak going. So there you go. Yeah. So shout out to Kegel, and hopefully we get to see you at another game soon, man.
Damien has to start the Louisville game. It has to happen.
It's the Damien Derby.
Come on. It literally has to happen. So I'm also glad that Stuver wouldn't lose that streak. Not that I think Stuver gives 2 shits about it.
Yeah, sure. So should have Jorge back in the mix here. With the first team getting some guys back. We also need to see the status of Riley Thomas, right? Left that Tacoma match early, walked off under his own power, but, came out about 35 minutes in. So again, 7:30 kickoff at the pitch this Sunday. Unless you have anything else to add here, E, how much is Austin FC 2 winning by on Sunday night?
I'm going to go 2-1 here again. I think Houston scores and they get a goal. I like the way that Austin's playing right now. If you get Jorge back into the mix, I feel good about the offensive unit, so I'm going 2-1.
All right, second team, I'll copy you. I will also go 2-1. I think it's going to be tough to keep this Houston team off the scoreboard. And I think it's going to be tough, clearly, to put goals past their back line, but just the elevated intensity here of a rivalry match. And some of the guys on these teams, right, grow up playing together. And some of the guys on the Houston side were in the Austin Academy just a couple years ago. So 2-1 victories for both of us. And don't care how you get it done, boys. Got to protect home field.
And if we could have essentially a boy factory.
The Boy Factory, hard work in the first team quality. Today's academy, can't you see? Tomorrow's Austin FC.
Nobody clip Boy Factory and use that.
Boy Factory on episode 297 of the North End Podcast. Ian, we have a couple new results here reported by the Academy, and some results we've already talked about, but now we've got the goal scorers. So wanted to run through these really quick. Apparently the U13s were also out at the Dallas Cup this past weekend. So you look at the U13s, open the tournament with a 4-0 win over DKSC. We got goals from Jordan McClanahan, Matthew Newbro, Gian Zardes, and Marcelo Bevierdo. So nice 4-0 win to get things started. Then a 2-1 win over FC Dallas, which we always like to see. Jordan McClanahan gets on the score sheet again, and Gabriel Giacomazzi scores the winner. Before an 8-0 performance against Mad Sports St. Lucia, Giacomazzi hat trick. Charlie Blake brace. That's a mouthful. Congrats, Charlie. Mohamed Silla brace, and then Alex Leyva in the 70th. All of those guys contributing to the 8-0 victory. In the quarterfinals, U13s played to a 1-1 draw with Academia O, and then Mohamed Silla scored that lone goal, but we fell 5-4 in penalties. And then getting back to that run to the final made by the U14s, their opening win 2-0 over the KC Legends. We got goals from Braylon Marin and Alexander Kilpatrick. Then that 1-0 victory over DKSC, that was a Ryan Thompson goal that gave us the victory, and the 4-1 result over North Toronto. Goals from Braylon Marin, Ryan Thompson with a brace, and then Oliver Hamadi. Then you get into the quarterfinals, the 2-0 win over the Dallas Texans, brace from Oliver Hamadi. And then in the semis, Goke Mex, 1-1 draw. The goal was from Oliver once again, and we advanced to the final 5-4 on penalties. The Eintracht Frankfurt draw, 2-2. We got goals from Saul Luna and Ryan Thompson before falling in the penalty shootout. So, I mean, a lot of wins there. We knew about it for the 14s, but the 13s had a good weekend as well.
Successful. Very nice to see.
And if we go through the GA Cup results, we've got the goal scorers here. We talked about those results, of course, but U15s, the 1-0 result over the Cedar Stars. Looks like we don't have goal scorers from the first two, but in the 2-0 win over, that's right, because we lost the first two, but the 2-0 win over Vancouver to close the group stage for the U15s, Abdiel Alvarez with a brace there for the 2-0 win over the Whitecaps. And then on the U16 side of things, with the 3-1 win over St. Louis City SC, you had a Luke Garcia goal to start things off, and then a brace from Eric Feliciano. In the final group stage match, that was a 1-1 draw against Toronto. We talked about it was Luke Garcia finding the net again in the 20th minute before the squad ultimately fell in pens. But again, man, there's a lot of goals being scored at the academy level over the last 2 weeks. So we will keep, our ear to the ground, our eyes on the timeline, cheering on the Boy Factory here.
Always cheering on the Boy Factory.
Look, that has permeated different chats I'm in, to the point where RSL scores with, Salons and Gozo on the weekend. Then I saw our boy Logan go RSL Boy Factory. That's all he says just after those guys score.
I mean, it's really Landon's fault. You got to have an AI generated song before you say something like that will legally protect you.
Yeah,
that's why we got it.
Exactly. So let's close it out today with the nonsense here. Great weekend with the picks. So maybe it was a little bit of that South Beach magic for us there. The pick'em entry hits, so plus 6.6 units with the Rossi shots, Evander shots, and the Daniel Wait, did this? Oh, I'm mistaken. It was
Oh.
our secondary entry that hit. So, not a great week. Yeah, it was still just fine. You lose the unit at the books, but then the pick, Charlotte comes through with the win. You get losses from Nashville and San Diego, but in that wild Toronto, Colorado match to start Saturday afternoon, we get goals from Sargent at plus 175, Paxton Aronson at plus 475, Dejan Joveljic scores at plus 225, Zaha adds a goal at plus 240 later in the night. So on the week at the books, we were plus 6. Where's my number here? We're all over the place. We are now plus 2.61 at the books, and with the goal scorers, we're now on the season minus 23.8. So it is minus 21.19 units at the books so far this season. And look, man, I know that's not pretty, but it feels a lot better than minus 29.95.
It's going the right way. That's for sure.
Plus 5.15 units at the books on the week, and you lose the unit at underdog. So let's talk best ball, and we will do a quick recap here, E, because our Patreon members have asked, and we will deliver a best ball specific Patreon only podcast here today.
Oh boy!
So everybody can look out for that if you are in the Discord. But first, checking in on the Big Ball League. So it was nice to make up 12 points on our buddy David Goss there. We get our first victory of the season, a very nice 69 points coming out of the transfer window. But the bummer was that David scored 57 and the Verde Pendant boys score 58, and we are Austin at the top, score 60. Mm-hmm. So very minimal ground made up for us on those top three, but we do jump over Verde all day there, who puts up a very respectable 52. We are into fourth. I believe that was the Verde Pendant broke the tie that they had with Soccer Wise, so now sitting in second. And Moon Tower, a 43, not like we've had, a 29 earlier this year. So Moon Tower still looking for that big week to jump back up into things. But look, long season, and we have made some changes here. To the roster, and we stuck with Philip Zinkernagel, and he rewarded us with a first-minute goal.
We are not giving up on Zink, man. Oh, gee, this best ball recap pod, we might lose some subscribers, man.
Yeah, we're going at you. You guys asked for it.
You asked for it. Don't come back later. Y'all asked for it. You thought we were nice guys. You were welcome to you should see our fantasy chats. I'll kill you.
Speaking of the Patreon leagues, we start with the Sentimiento League. We're fucking TJ, man.
Unbelievable. 4
straight wins in a row. He texted me last night, I've won 6 in a row. No, dude, you've won 5 out of 6. Mace, you've been in first all 6 weeks. So I'll put that up there next time when TJ is inevitably in first again next week. He has a 57 on the week. And it was like a pretty balanced scoring week in the Patreon leagues. I want to say 61 was the top scorer, but you see Ari's another strong week, still in second, Cesar in third, Mace just a point behind him in terms of the top half of the Sentimiento League. Over in the Heartbeat League, you get a win from Mike Cragnola, pulling him into a second place tie with the stat man Tim Thompson, but it is Peach still up top there, 344 for Peach. Your boy, ZG in fourth at 56, strong week. And then we flip over to the Rooted League, where Johnny in last place coming into the week. Great vibes coming out of the transfer window is 61. And the table tightens, man. If you look, like 41 for Logan at the top, you had a 47. The scores kind of get higher for the week as you go down the table. So the Rooted League tightening up here. Logan, E, Trevor, and Schnorb Jones, the top 4 there. So you look, I had my hater goggles on. I saw that I had jumped up above you, and in the overall standings we posted, there was no E. But we have corrected the overall standings here in the race for the 2027 Premier League. Again, the top 8 will qualify, and E, that means you would just qualify. But guess what? So would I there, tied for 6th with our buddy Logan. Of course, Tej up top. So top 8 right now, if the season ended, Premier League would be Birdman Verde, Peach, Mike Cragnola, Tim Thompson, Ari Silva, ZG, Logan Aqua, and E. And then your first 4 out, Turbo Trevor, Schnorb Jones, Cesar, and Josh D. So again, that line, like you got Josh and Cesar tied for 11th, 310. You're that line right now, E, at 322.
I'll hold the line. Call me Hodor.
All right. Anything else for you?
Don't call me
before I know something else you don't want people to call you, but we'll let them figure that out this weekend. Appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us here at episode 297 of the North End Podcast. We are back on Sunday, recapping the first team's match against LA Galaxy and previewing the round of 32 match against Louisville City on Sunday. And, of course, talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We will do the same, and we'll see you back. We'll see you at the Q on Saturday and back here for another episode on Sunday. Till then, he's E. And I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.